the end of this video, you'll know exactly what are the things that make companies like Toyota, Apple, Amazon succeed, and what are the real things that make your business double in value and make you exit the golden prison that can be your life and your work. If you're constantly firefighting and going to work with stress, and when you wake up, you don't even know what you need to be doing, stay in this video, because what I'm about to show you might radically change the way you operate and how you think about building a business in the next few years. I'm Alex Carey. I've spent the last 10 years building the biggest operation systems in the world. I've been mentored by the greats of the greats, those who have built operation systems at Apple, at Amazon, alongside Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos. I've learned from actually the best. I'm an industrial engineer, and it's been over like 7 years that I'm actually implementing industrial engineering concepts in combination with technology and data. And so what I'm about to show you is a condensation of 15 plus years of knowledge put into a very simple sheet. So let's jump right into it. So what are those first principles of operational excellence? So those are the physics you can't cheat. And those are the physics that you, Frank, can use to escape the golden prison. So what are the physics? We need to talk about the foundations first. So every system is very simple. What is it simple? It's just an input, a process, and an output. So you can also think about your whole value chain as this way. An input, a process chains of input and output that in the end provide some very specific output, right? So you have a feedback loop that then helps you to create continuous improvement. So this is universal, and everything else is just noise. That's just what it is. Then there's another principle, the iron triangle. I don't know if you know, but within a system, output, you can maximize for only 3 things: quality, cost, and speed. But the nuance there is that you can only maximize for 2, not the 3 at the same time. Why? Because if you consider your total allocation, it's equal to 200. And if you increase the quality, you'll have to decrease the speed, and so here the cost is decreasing, but actually it should be increasing. So you think of attractivity, optimality. So you're at 50% optimality. Then if you want to do quality and speed at maximum, well, it means that it's going to be very, very costly, because you'll have to invest in a lot of machine and automation. Another example, if you go full on quality and full on cost efficiency, well, you have to wait a lot, because it's impossible to get those things. And then if you consider that, you can sacrifice quality and you want to go very fast and do things very cheaply, well, usually the quality here you'll get will be very bad. So for you, the question is, okay, what are those 2 things that I can do exceptionally well and I can sacrifice the other for my customers? But reality is, as you can see, you don't have to choose sometimes between all the 3. You can just calibrate and find what is the setup that works for you. Maybe, and so that's maybe the next step that we should cover, is the customer expectations. Customer expectations are an anchor for everything. Why? Because you take your customer expectations about the quality, the speed, and the cost, and you work backwards in your system. So you take those expectations and you embed them into every step of your value chain. So every input, process, output, you're like, okay, if I do this output, I go with maximum speed. I want to do it with maximum quality, but of course, that's going to be very expensive. And for example, if you are manufacturing bags like Hermes, well, that's why people pay for. They have the maximum expectation for quality, and they have the maximum expectation when it comes to, well, actually Hermes, they only care about quality. And speed, it takes like months before you get something. And cost efficiency, well, it's just super expensive, so they only maximize for one. So sometimes you can put everything into quality, like you have the best quality. But some other companies will do something like this. They'll just do 100 here and 100 here, and then they'll be super expensive. So this might be, you know, let me think about an example. What company can do quality at 100% and speed at 100%, but with a very high cost? I mean, Porsche manufacture a lot of great cars with a very good quality, but their cost is very, very high. So that would be one of your examples. But yeah, Porsche, if to do this, they have to create that customer expectation, their ICP, ideal customer profile, embedded into every step of their value chain. Otherwise, it doesn't work. If one of your department works like this and another one works completely differently, you'll have inconsistent output. So what does it mean for you? So you can calibrate those things, but scaling is also important. So, you choose those three things. You understand that everything is input, process, output, and then you work backwards. But then you have to make sure that it's systematized and consistent. Why? Because if it's wobbly and not very robust, and you can't scale, you won't have a great foundation. And if you want to accelerate the speed of delivery or the volume of orders you process, etc., you might fall. And it's most probably that you will fall. So you want to strive to be a Ferrari that goes at 130 kilometers per hour. So built for speed and a system that can scale with control. So what does that really mean, and why sometimes it's very hard to do? Well, because of the coordination makes things break. Why? Well, because those systems, their complexity is squared. And let me show you what I think. When you have two people that do collaborate, there's just one handoff. It's very easy. You can very easily to do. I do this step, then I do this step, then I do this step. Very easy to organize the work. But it might not be the most efficient, because in terms of speed, you'll need to wait and then that person to receive the information, etc. So then you hire, right? But as you hire people, you might have seen that things don't scale as much, and things is lost, and you have a need for managers, so you hire a manager, and that becomes very expensive. Well, why? It's because when you have 5 people, you have 10 possible handoff or exchanges of information that no one will centralize into one source of truth naturally. If you have 10 people, you can imagine 45 handoffs or distinct communication. If you have 20, it's 190. So this is why middle management exists, and why you might drown in work without system. So execution costs scale linearly, but the time isn't lost in the work itself. It's lost between the work. Every handoff is a friction. So what we usually think is that you need to invest in that specific process. You go here and you say, okay, I need to optimize this. But have you thought about the fact that when someone, let's say Richard, did that process and he provided output, how long does it take for Ben to take that output as an input in his process and do that same task? That a lot of people don't think about. So when you jump between steps, you want also that time of handoff and information and alignment to be as minimal as possible. But that's hard. So usually what we see is that information flow is the bottleneck, not material flow. So you can have a perfect processes, perfect standards, but if the information about those processes lives in someone's head or 47 Google Sheets, you will have chaos. So for that, you need real-time visibility, not periodic rewarding. So many companies still have their numbers reviewed only once a month or once a quarter, worse, once a year. That's very problematic. So you can't manage what you can see. You can't improve what you don't measure. So that was one of the quotes from that right hand from Jeff Bezos. So you can't improve what you don't measure. So you have to measure stuff. And you can't see if you're looking at yesterday numbers. So because you are dealing with lagging indicators, what you want to have is some leading indicators in your business. So because by the time you know about the problem, it already cost you $15,000. So how do you do that? Well, you go into systematization. So that's another first principle. You have to have a system that tells you the right owner that has to do the work at the right time. So the system tells the right owner when to walk. So when you think about like technology and software, technology is in the golden solution, but it definitely can help you with that chef d'orchestre, so the orchestra of making sure everything is on a beat. So what does it mean to be on a beat? It doesn't necessarily mean go the fastest. It doesn't matter. You might know that quote, slow and steady wins the race. Well, your value stream should be steady at least, because if you have spikes and seasonality and all that stuff, very bad on multiple fronts, and you might know it yourself. But so what we say here is that generic CRM shows you a list of sorted by date, Purpose-built system, triage by readiness. Is it early? So not ready to be working on. So it's something that you can do right now if you have a capacity, but it's not the most important thing. Soon to be ready means that, for example, we are receiving like a delivery next week. So get ready. You should plan for it. Plan your capacity, or you receive it in 3 weeks, depending on how far you look in the future. That's important. Then on time. This is the optimal window of execution. So it means that you made your promise to your customer that you're gonna do your delivery between the 1st and the 7th of April. Well, boom, now you know. This is the time to execute. So reach out to your customer and do that thing that you promised. Or late. Oh, you still didn't deliver? What is going on? You have to pay attention, contact your customer, say that you're late, that you're sorry, that you missed it. But with a good system, usually you never get to that point where you're late, So the system asks and then another thing, you can be in all of those timing spots, but you can also be in different paths. So in your business, they might be the ideal scenario, like the theoretical. If everything goes well, what is the perfect customer journey? What is the perfect flow? That's what we call a happy path. So those are your standard workflow that works everything as expected, without errors, nobody's making mistakes, utopia. But as we all know, no business is like this. Even the best businesses in the world have problems, have unexpected things that pop up. You ordered 5 items on the PO, you received 4. Boom, you have a discrepancy in terms of quantity. Then another day you order something, boom, it has a damage because the delivery guy made it fall during the offloading of the truck. Or you open it and you ordered the color red and it's green. Anything can happen, And this is why you also have to consider, okay, if something is going through our processes, do I have corrective measures to make sure that you stop the flow of the goods, correct the quality as soon as possible, and then restart? So I think this is something that a lot of people overlook. They only focus on building system for the happy path, and they completely forget the rigor and the quality that is required when you deal with your deviations. So deviations of the happy path. So let's say something was a bad output, boom. How do you get it back into the process again so that you deliver the quality that you need or you promise to your customer? So the system should route the work to the right owner based on its state on the right time. Not based on who yells the loudest, right? Then you can't delegate chaos. There's a great story about digital transformation. People who are like, we are growing so fast, we need a system to help us scale. They invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into a technology system, and boom, guess what happens? It doesn't work. Why? Well, because if you just went on a shop floor or in a warehouse and you saw that all of your boxes are lying on the floor, there's no standard, there's no lines, there's no delimitation, technology won't save you. So one of the first things you have to do is focus on the people and the process before doing any technology implementation. Trust me, I've lived it, I've seen it on $100 million project. You don't want to be that guy who, you know, invests hundreds of thousands in technology just to realize that you needed to take a broom and make some order. So there's the classic thing that is called the 5S, comes from Japan, my second favorite country after Switzerland. Both excel on excellence. So what do? You do just that thing. You remove what's not needed. That's one of the key principles in everything you get, like that we live by. Less is more. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Make it simpler. So remove the noise. Remove everything that isn't needed. Remove complexity. But here is like just remove from your working station all the distraction. Just focus on what matters. Then set things in order. Organize what remains. Then once you did it, clean and inspect. Make sure you maintain that order. Then you have to standardize. Create SOPs on how to do that task, and then sustain. Make it a routine. Give feedback. Make sure that you keep that performance going. Why is it important? It's because most of the things in company can't be only done by A players, and we're gonna be coming to that. But you know, McDonald's doesn't operate at that huge scale just by hiring the best people. One of the key principles in the business is focus on who rather than the how. And what it means, there's this a brilliant book about this topic, is if you want to scale, you have to think about who is the person who can do it best at 10x rather than you trying to find out how you can do that thing at 2x. Because you can always think nobody can do it better than me, but you don't only have that one thing to do in your business. You have multiple things to do, and if you want to scale, you want people who execute based on the customer promise with quality, and for that you need systems. So in the end, you'll have to hire B players because A players are rare and expensive. But if you create systems for your B players to perform at 80% of the A players, you win. That's how you scale it. That's easy as that, you know. And same thing, it's like you can implement some AI in a process, but you still need people, you know, to do the coordination, the handoffs, and you know, deal with your unhappy paths, etc. No matter the level of automatization in your business, I think you should first start on the orchestration of your value chain and then think about automation and all that stuff. Too many people have AI FOMO. I'm saying stop, breathe a little. It doesn't matter, you know. It's just AI is like slavery. It's very, very cheap labor, but you still need to do a lot of things to keep them, you know, focused on the right thing to do, and that sometimes is hard, you know. So that's why you build delegation frameworks. And delegation frameworks it's only about trust. If you have trouble to delegate something to someone, it's because you don't trust them and the quality that you expect. So it's your job to make sure that the quality that you get is there. So for that, you create SOPs, or you know, you hire A players. But I'm telling you, it's way easier to do B players plus SOP than hiring and finding A players. Of course, you need to do both, but this one is so much more scalable, and less expensive. So, you know, you give them autonomy. B players require SOPs and system to create trust. You give them structure. Both path works. Pick based on who you have, you know. So, and that's what we do through our trios technology. No, that's not. Anyway, this is BS. Don't look at it. Then find your bottlenecks and your constraints. So based on the idea of the input, process, output, every chain has one bottleneck that controls the entire flow. So if you read the book from Mr. Goldratt, The Goal, you'll see that you go only as fast as your slowest um, like step in your chain. So this is what you need to focus on. Find your bottleneck and then calibrate it and then smooth it out. Yeah, so the old way was to start where they are, maximum adoption. Then you add visibility, real-time information flow, so you avoid meetings. Then you add some orchestration. System coordinates handoff, eliminates coordination task, and then you pass to a new value chain. So the idea here that I wanted to say is that when you started your business, most probably you operated in a specific way because it was you, etc. But as you try to scale, your processes change, you complexify stuff, you add things here and there, you add control. But to evolve to a new state that is aligned with your customer expectation, it takes change. So what we do is, like, in terms of change management, when you do operational excellence, one of the first principles that you want to do is do gradual change, not all at once. You don't do the waterfall. You have to work in an agile way and minimize the change for the people. So one key principle is, if you implement something, try to recreate their physical and all these senses that they have working, for example, with paper, recreate it in the system. So if they use a specific color to designate a geography, for example, well, recreate that within your system. If they use a specific wording within their steps, recreate that wording. But that requires you a custom system, which not every system can do that. That's why Anchor Point exists. We do that, and it works brilliantly. And then another principle, AI. AI, we already talked about it, but AI handles routines. Humans handle judgment. AI optimizes speed and repetitive tasks, but 80% accuracy fails on 20% that matters. So essentially, yeah, your system puts human in the workflow for the edge cases, not babysitting the entire process. So it's all about how do you make your people scale through the AI. But in the end, why all this matters is because you need to stop firefighting and start living. So it's not fun to be working 80 hours a week, miss your family dinners and important events, missing your kids' soccer game, working through their vacation. So if you execute those things properly, you can easily reclaim 20 plus hours a week, sleep through the nights, and be present for your family, working on the business, not in it. Then, if you have a system, if you have a business that is systematized, so that if a stranger comes in tomorrow and looks how you operate and he understands, well, good news, you can almost double the value of your business. In terms of your net worth and like how much you can sell it. That's not negligible. Just by following some of those first principles and putting them into action. So, and then in the end, you want to, well, it's a little redundant, but I came to code in prison. Take real vacations away from your phone, spoil your wife, drive the car you deserve, have that pride of what you've done. Not drown in chaos. So yeah, those were my first principles. There's still some work to be done in there, because there are things that I didn't cover. So if you want to follow how we refine those things, subscribe in the channel, give us all your comments. If I didn't explain something very well, let me know. But what matters is that we, as a company, Anchor Point, we help you go through that journey very easily in 90 days. So you start working with us, and in 90 days, you have full, complete transformation that helps you save time and makes your employee very happy about the change that happened to them. We're professionals, and we can really help you. So if you want to learn more, go in the description. There'll be a link to contact us. Jump in there, and let's get on a call. Until then, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Peace.